glorious prey, worthy.
When the 2018 Spider-Man game first came out, it cemented itself as the definitive Spider-Man game, and ever since then, Insomniac have done nothing but hit it out of the park with games like Spider-Man Miles Morales and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. So believe me that with the combination of loving the 2018 game, being a big fan of Insomniac, and being a big fan of Spider-Man in general, I was beyond excited to play Spider-Man 2, and after finishing it, it certainly adds to Insomniac's ever-growing resume of greatness. But let's talk about it. Hi guys, DPX here reviewing today Spider-Man 2. Be sure to like this video, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will infect you with the symbiote. Starting off with the good, of course, the gameplay. I can't just say the gameplay though, as there are multiple aspects of the gameplay to pick at. We'll start with the web slinging. Honestly, with everything that this game has going for it, the web slinging might be one of my favorite parts of the whole game. Well, maybe not particularly the web slinging, but being able to just go around New York City and seeing a massive open world with so much to do is just beautiful. But the reason I corrected myself when I said web slinging is because you don't just have to do that, as now you can activate the spider wings, making you glide through New York City, which is really cool and also really fast. I did often end up just web slinging, maybe just because it's easier to just take everything in that you're looking at that way, but I do really like the addition of the wings. But then there is the combat. Not much is really added to the combat from the first game, or even Miles Morales, but you get to play as both Peter and Miles, which is really cool, and it's only really the natural progression of the combat from the first game and the side quest. And it's really cool that you get to have some objectives as Peter and some objectives as Miles. And as for Miles, many of his abilities from the first game carry over and are just abilities he has now, which I also really like. And in terms of the abilities, not much is different, but when you get the symbiote, that's when some cool new mechanics come in. But as far as the combat itself, it's about what you expect, which is awesome. There's also the story, which is everything I wanted and then some. Pretty much, without getting into spoilers, you got Peter Parker and Miles Morales as the two Spider-Men, Peter's relationship with MJ, and Peter also reunites with Harry Osborn, all the while Kraven the Hunter is, well, doing his thing. Hunting. That is as much as I'll get into story-wise, but man does it hit many beats it needs to, with some serious emotional moments. Oh yeah, without spoiling anything, there is also a part in the later half of the game where something happens, like, to both the story and the gameplay, and without saying anything, what exactly it is, when it happened, I popped the fuck off. Again, I'm not gonna say what it is, but if you know, you know. There's also a lot of really awesome boss fights. I won't say who you fight in the game, although there are a few that should be obvious, but then some I really wasn't expecting. And the way that these bosses are done is really interesting too. Again, I don't want to get into specifics, but I really like it. I also have to mention the performances from the cast, specifically Yuri Lowenthal as Peter. I understand he was a little controversial as he was an admittedly unnecessary recasting, but many of the emotions in this game would not have been possible without his stellar performance, and the same goes for Najee Jeter as Miles Morales and Laura Bailey as MJ. There's also many suits in the game. They don't really come with any unique abilities, but any game that lets me change the appearance of my character, especially with iconic suits like Spider-Man, I eat that shit up. The visuals are great as well. This game is absolutely stunning, and I really feel like it can't work on the PS4, especially since there are moments with the many particle effects that wouldn't work on last-gen consoles, along with no loading times as well. The music is also great, as it really fits Spider-Man, and I especially like Kraven the Hunter's theme. That got stuck in my head a few times. There's also the side quests in this game that are actually pretty fun. Not necessarily a side quest, but I do really like going around the city and collecting all the little spider drones. And I'm not that much of a side quests guy. And lastly, although I did really love the first game, one major issue I had with it is that it often felt like it was padding to make the game longer. In particular, the Miles and MJ sections along with the puzzles I just felt were only there as filler. Spider-Man 2, however, pretty much removes the filler. There are still the puzzles, and I'll get to that, but I rarely, if ever, felt the game was padding, which is a huge plus. Moving on to the mixed, these are things that I don't quite want to put in good or in the bad, or maybe it's a problem surrounding the game and not really a problem with the game itself. One mixed thing that is more of an issue surrounding the game and not necessarily with the game is the installation error that I've heard a lot of people talking about. Luckily, I didn't have this issue, but apparently when some people install this game, the installation freezes at 36%, and from what I've read, it seems like there's no fix for this error, or at least not yet, because Sony kind of has to do something. Like, this is pretty bad. If you haven't bought this game yet, be aware of that issue if you plan on buying it physically. Again, I bought a physical copy, and this didn't happen, so it's not happening to everyone, but be aware. Other things I'm mixed on, I did say I was going to get to the puzzles, and I'm at the puzzles, and the thing with them that I really like in this game is that you now have the option to skip the puzzles, which that part should be in the good, you know, obviously. But you're probably asking why that's not under the good, and why am I mentioning that here? And that's because while I do very much appreciate the fact that we can skip the puzzles now, I kind of just wish Insomniac removed the puzzles completely. I never felt like they added anything to the game, and they always felt like they were there just for filler, so giving the player an option to skip it is great, but maybe just remove them entirely next time. There's also the debate of the length of this game, and how the main story is rather short, and people say that it doesn't justify $70. I feel that you got the main story, and you got the side quests that both justify $70, but if you are just there for the main story, it is kind of short. But even then, I feel the definitive Spider-Man earns that $70 price tag, and Insomniac has too.
Come on! Come on! It won't start! I got you! Hang on to something!
As for my issues with the game, these feel more like nitpicks, but they are worth mentioning. One is that there is one villain, and I don't want to say who, because what I'm about to say might spoil it if you connect the dots had I said who, but there is a villain that I thought was being used very well, up until they weren't, and I just feel like once the character was done in the game, it felt a little anticlimactic. Again, not saying who, but a little anticlimactic of an ending for them. The other thing is that there are some technical issues in the game, not as much as the Xbots like to say there are, and before Xbox fans get mad at me for saying that, I said something similar about Sony ponies in my Starfield review, so it goes both ways. But regardless, the technical issues might not be as bad, but there are some weird clipping through walls that I noticed. And the game even crashed on me randomly once, which, you know, sucks, but I was more confused when that happened because it never happened again, and it never even came close to happening again. But that was really it for me. That was bad.
Don't worry, I've got you!
Despite some issues that honestly feel more like nitpicks to me personally, Spider-Man 2 is another huge triumph for Insomniac. The story, combat, characters, visuals all make this a sequel that trumps the first game in every single way. And I'm just gonna say it, with their track record after this, I feel confident in saying that Insomniac is the single greatest developer in the industry today. Maybe not of all time, but of any developer developing games today, I think Insomniac are number one. Do not sleep on them or this Spider-Man series of games. If you own a PS5, it is a must own. And that's why I give Spider-Man 2 a 9.5 out of 10. Maybe the words I'm using probably means it's a 10 out of 10, but I don't quite feel like it's up there at the 10 out of 10 mark, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's quite there, but who knows? Maybe I will in a little bit. That's my review for Spider-Man 2. What do you guys think? And before you comment below, yes, I'm going to be working on my Mario Wonder review. I didn't have the Switch this weekend, so I couldn't really play it that much. The upside is I was able to play this, but I should be getting it back soon. And it's all Mario, baby. Anyways, Spider-Man 2, what do you guys think? Do you guys like it, not like it? Have you guys played it, not played it? And if you haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Anything about the game, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like this video, come subscribe, or I will infect you with the symbiote.